Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of What Ted Says, where it's always time to get a fatter wallet and a bigger net worth. I give you all the scoop here on this channel. Make sure you click that subscribe button. So a lot of people have been asking me as of late, I got a 1099, Ted. Now what do I do? First of all, why in the world did you get a 1099 to begin with? Well, a 1099 is a document that's used to report certain types of non-employment income, non-W-2 income to the IRS. The IRS has to know a way that you actually got this income. So you can think about this as simple as you got dividends from a stock that you own, like a Coke or a Microsoft, or you took an independent gig and you made $5,000 doing a consulting job. Now, not all 1099s are created alike. The key number I want you to keep in mind here on this coaching session I'm giving you is $600, because that's generally when a 1099 is issued. So if you made $200 doing a coaching gig, you're generally not going to get a 1099. If you made $2,000, you are going to get a 1099. But there's a lot of different 1099s. When I said that they're not all created equal, here are the kinds of 1099s that you can get. You can get a 1099 INT. This is like interest you'd earn in a bank account, and a 1099 DIV. And that's dividends you might get from a stock. But there's ones that come from the government, like a 1099G. If you roll over a 401k, like a 1099R for rollover. There are 1099Bs, 1099Ss, and even times when I had won trips in the past, I would get a 1099 MISC for miscellaneous income, and all of these things are reportable income, the last one there being a 1099 NEC. So a lot of people will ask me, what's the main difference really between a 1099 and me being a W-2? And while there are a world of differences, a 1099 is generally going to show you non-employment income, such as income you might earn as a freelancer or an independent contractor. On the other hand, a W-2 that you would normally get is going to show what kind of annual wages, maybe annual bonuses, or other income you make from your employer. In this case, it might be a particular employer. So when somebody says, hey, I made $150,000 as a W-2 working for Coca-Cola, that's what I mean. That's all the income that you got for Coca-Cola. The second main difference in here is that when you are a W-2, you are generally withholding taxes. You'll fill out a form when you sign up at your employer, and they'll withhold taxes from your paycheck. And with a 1099, there are no taxes that are withheld. You're going to be the one that's required to send it in. So that's a big difference, because if you don't make those estimated payments at the end of the year, you're going to work a big bill potentially if you made a lot of 1099 income. Now, 1099s are generally sent out in January in the tax year, and so you really need to stay on top of your addresses, because when it comes to, well, what happens if I don't get a 1099, whether you as the payer actually get a 1099 in the mail or not, remember, the person that's sending you that 1099 also is going to report that to the IRS. So if you move to address during the year and somebody has your old address and they send you a 1099 for $50,000 and you don't report it and you say to the IRS, I never saw it, it doesn't really matter. So it's important to keep those addresses, especially if you're getting multiple kinds of 1099 income in this gig economy. So at the same time, the IRS gets that 1099, and when they get that 1099, they're going to know for sure how much income you earned if you don't report it, and it gets matched inside of the IRS system. Then you've got a real tax problem that you don't want to deal with. Generally speaking, you're going to get those 1099s by January 31st. At the latest, the filing deadline is going to be February 15th. So by mid-February, you should have all the 1099s. And unless you do a lot of gig economy type jobs, you may only have 1 or 2 or 3 places you're getting 1099s, you should be looking for those in the mail. And if you find any kind of errors, any whatsoever, report them immediately. Let's say there's a case where you only made $800 on a gig economy job, but you get a 1099 in the mail that says $8,000. Well, that's going to be a problem. There's 1 0 on there that should not be on there. It's going to be incumbent upon you to actually contact the person who sent you the 1099 and try to get those changes made immediately. So that's one of the big ones that you'll see as an example. I have seen so many people over the years, and I've done other videos on this, that when you get a 1099, you're going to file something on your tax return called a Schedule C, unless you've actually set up an LLC. And if you do, I try to get the 1099s made out to the LLC and not to you personally. There are ways to zero it out on your tax return, but it can be super, super challenging. Again, you're going to get all that income, and remember, your tax liability, when you report them, is not just going to be off of all that income, it's going to be off of all those expenses as well. So it's incumbent upon you to report every single 1099. It's incumbent upon you to basically get all the expenses in place, and then you will pay tax on that net income. 3 kinds of taxes. Number 1, you may pay federal tax. Number 2, you may pay state tax. There are a whole bunch of states that have no state tax whatsoever, and then you're responsible for both halves of the FICA tax, which is Social Security, and also the Medicare tax. In totality, that tax, because you're paying as the employee and the employer, will be 15.3%. There is a self-employment tax deduction, so really net, it comes out to be 13.4%. So these are things to be thinking about when you get a 1099. If you do all of this right, hopefully you estimate your tax payments right, hopefully you manage your expenses right. There are a lot of ways to mitigate taxes if you're smart about how running your business. I put together all kinds of great things for you on What Ted Says. What I recommend is getting into our different playlists. I have one on 1099s, and I have one on small business owners. And if you go into those playlists, you're going to be able to get a lot of great information that can help you figure out how to have a fatter wallet and also have a bigger net worth. That's what we do here on What Ted Says. Tell me if you like this video. Tell me what you want to see more about 1099s. Make sure to share this with a gig economy friend. It may make a big difference to them. And that's this episode of What Ted Says.